introduction. I hope you're not overwhelmed by the intelligence my colleagues are providing. So my research is on Tashkent-City. Some of you might have heard about the project Tashkent-City. So I start with asking a question: who is the Tashkent-City for? This is not necessarily my research question, but this is a question I wish the planners and the government should ask before planning to make a project like Tashkent-City. It is very important to ask this question. Why? Because the city is a place, such an important place for people's societal well-being, for overall well-being of the nation. So therefore it's important how to develop, how to transform cities. So the Tashkent City aims to transform the central part of Tashkent into a global, international business center. So who is this city for? Or more importantly, who makes the city? But what I was curious about, that as a resident of Tashkent, I was curious whether this project somehow would contribute to the well-being of residents, city residents, or somehow it sort of allows people to raise their issues, somehow comment on the project, and have a voice on what's going on, how the central part of Tashkent would look like in 4 years. So I was curious where there is a perspective for dialogue, for public dialogue. So therefore, I looked at the Tashkent City urban planning project from the perspective of national branding, in order to understand what the government wants through this project to achieve, what it aims to bring. So therefore I ask how the national branding process through the Tashkent City project does involve public dialogue, or how this addresses people's concerns or people's issues. So my concept is about national branding. What national branding is? It's an attempt of the governments which are in transition and try to build such an image that is different from the former image, in order to attract more investment, foreign business, and so in order to build a positive image. What current Uzbek government is trying to build is as a completely different image that is open for cooperation, that is attractive for investment, and also it is different from the previous government, which has been very closed for cooperation, which has been authoritarian. So President Mirziyoyev's aim is to change that perception, to change that approach through the Tashkent City project. I also look at the issue of well-being, as I mentioned, how it can contribute to well-being, and what the government understands by well-being, and how people understand well-being, what is well-being for people. So does the understanding of the well-being of society overlap with the government's understanding of well-being? So ask how the national branding through the Tashkent City project in Uzbekistan addresses people's needs, or to what extent there's a space for dialogue. So why this is a big issue, why Tashkent City has been publicly debated publicly, largely on social media, and people are discussing this and saying the government should rather invest in rural areas, or rather it should invest on the roads, we have bad roads, so on and so on. So it has been largely debated on social media. People are discussing also the areas which are under demolition due to the Tashkent City project. So one of them is mahallas, traditional neighborhoods, locally called mahallas. So demolition of mahallas has posed also a lot of problems, both emotional and practical, meaning that the the role of mahalla is very important in Uzbek society, because this is a community-based entity where everybody knows each other, everybody helps each other, so there is a community, the committee that serves the well-being of the society and the community. So therefore, it is a very sensitive issue, the removal of traditional mahallas. And it's not the first time it is happening. It happened during the Soviet period. It happened after the earthquake in 1966. And this is again now happening. The history is repeating itself. This is very emotional problem for people in the area. Sort of it's disappearing, the kind of vanishing the culture of mahalla and the traditional life. Why this area was targeted is because it's very strategic. It's in the heart of Tashkent. It's the central part of Tashkent. So Red Square in the center. It's a location of Tashkent-City where the mahallas are located. And now it's under demolition. But actually, there's another problem with the relocation. It's a kind of problem of social division, I may say. I'm just thinking about now how the government now using this strategic area and moving the locals of the mahalla to the outskirts of the city, which is like 11.5 kilometers away from the city. And this is very unfair, and people, residents of mahalla, are very unhappy with it. So actually, this is also causing another problem. Although the government is offering other alternatives, such as like secondary housing in the other parts of the city, but still the main relocation area is in the district, which is far from the city center, and then the metro lines, as you see, it is like basically in the center of the city. So the problem with well-being, again, there's a conflicting values and conflicting ideas of well-being. How the state understands the well-being, and Mirziyoyev often emphasizes that the Tashkent city should serve as a face of city Tashkent, and he mentioned in one of his speeches that through the Tashkent city we should declare about ourselves. It's like, okay, the country should declare about itself, but not necessarily in this way. Meaning that the national branding is actually targeted to target the external audience, as you can see here. It's not necessarily about local people. It's about the image of the country outside, how the country wants to be seen, how it wants to be perceived by others. But okay, you can build that image, you can bring that brand image, but the government should make sure that the local people's well-being is also ensured, and local people are happy with that. So it will bring something for the local people, for the residents, because in order to build an image, you should make sure that all your own people are happy first. Well, the theory even suggests that the local people, without the considering the well-being of the internal audience, you cannot build such positive image outside. So the perspective, the perception of the residents of mahallas of well-being is very complex. It's very emotional. So they see the well-being in the special places, like in the spaces where they have lived for ages. Because those mahallas are very old, some of them date back to 14th century. And so they see the well-being in being able to live in their own houses. Even it's very old, no, this is a demolition site now. Even it's very in poor conditions, because there hasn't been any investment due to the fact that the area was a target for the redevelopment. So they understand well-being in a different way. So for them, it's like being able to live with the all members of the community, or being able to live with the whole family, which is the size of the families in the mahallas are big. So they see it this way. So there is a conflicting values. dialogue with people. So last year we had a good dialogue. 2017 was a year of a dialogue in Uzbekistan. So Mirziyoyev announced the year dialogue with people. He initiated all these virtual receptions or complaints and suggestions under the ministries and under the president. So how it worked? Did it work? Well, according to my research, analyzing all these case studies and all the issues around Tashkent-City, I can say that the dialogue did not work. It failed in this sense, because it did not address the issues raised by the people regarding the urban planning, regarding one of the very important issues for the people, city residents. So, and as an example, how it didn't work. The example is another demolition, another building which was demolished due to Tashkent-City is a cinema house. We call it Dom Kino. So Dom Kino was very an interesting and important building of cultural significance for people. So there was a request by the community of artists and architects and cinematographers directly to the president, requesting an open dialogue, open discussion of the concept of Tashkent-City. So they wanted to keep this building, which is a cultural heritage, so that also a historical heritage from the Soviet period. So this has meant the building had the meaning for people, not only for the art community, but for the people, city residents. So the request was made, but it remains still unaddressed. I talked with the authors, I talked with the women who have made this request personally, and the whole community supported her, signed the letter, but it was then redirected to the Committee on Architecture, but after that there was no response. So the dialogue did not happen. But what can happen is that I have another case study where we can see that the dialogue can work if the government, if there is an accountability of the government and also activism from the civil society, from the people. So the case of a modern mahalla shows us that the people who have voiced against this modern mahalla have proved that the community's engagement actually can work. So the modern mahalla means that there's a project that aims to redesign the mahallas in a different way, in a modern way. So, but the people did not like this idea. They wanted to stop the project. So the process is again the project, and it was found out that the hakimiyat, the local municipality, had actually given the permission without discussing it with the people, without notifying them. So we can see that how the incompetence of the local government can result to such things. So at the end of the day, the people, residents of Mahalla have won the case, and it was a success story for public dialogue, so that means it can work. But both sides should be accountable, and they should work, they should be active. So all of my case studies have one common issue. I mean, two problems. First one is the approach of the government is non-participatory, meaning undemocratic, so to planning. So in order to build image, in order to have successful national branding, so urban planning should become participatory. I argue that without participatory planning, the country cannot build an image. It will not be positive. So also the urban planning project does not address the citizens' needs and concerns. This is another issue. But another important issue that all case studies have in common is that there's a non-compliance of legal norms. So meaning that the project, the Tashkent-City project, when it was approved in last year, 2017, there was a decree that set different deadlines on demolition and inventory of the places, which contradict to the law on property, which has different deadlines and due procedure of 6 months notification of the residents before the demolition. But actually, the decree on Tashkent-City had violated that procedure, violated that deadline. So therefore, there is a kind of contradictory issue with the legal legislative instruments. Also, another problem is that the removal of the cinema house was also debated because there was a decree on developing cinema, national cinema. And the decree on Tashkent-City had required the removal of that facility, the cinema, development of the cinema. So therefore, in order to avoid those kind of issues of unanimity in decision making, I propose that the government should have this division between the governing bodies to ensure unanimity of the decisions. It's called Review and Compliance Division. So that will make sure that all the decrees and resolutions issued by different governing bodies would have unanimity, but they will not contradict each other. Another recommendation is that to establish a separate suggestion box for city residents to comment on the urban projects. So the general complaint box, since the general complaint box is not addressing the issue regarding the urban projects and Tashkent-City project, so I suggest there should be a replication of the complaint box, which is called suggestion box. So that will help people to comment on the projects. Also, for local governments, hakimiyats, to establish and support the establishment of public councils. Also, the information exchange platforms, so that there is a platform between the government and the people on the urban plans. So people are aware and informed what is going on and what will happen with the city, what are the plans of the government. Well, the public council actually was initiated in one of the districts of Tashkent, but it's too early to measure its success or the better functioning. I also suggest that there should be an information exchange program, platform under the public council, so that enables people to collect information and to be aware of the projects that the government has. So to conclude, I say that all the efforts to build a national brand image for the country should include the nation itself, the people. Without that, I think that it will be unsuccessful for the government to build any positive image. Thank you.